Hello and welcome back to my channel. For today's card, I tried something a little bit different and I still don't know how I feel about it. To start with, I have some dark colors of Ohuhu markers that I am sort of roughly scribbling over this stitched rectangle panel. So I have my blue, which was PB11, I think. This one was V450, I think, and then I have G7. So I'm trying to create a very dark grass and a very dark night sky. Now the important thing is that you layer these a whole bunch, otherwise you will get all these squiggly lines that you don't want. I am adding black just to darken up the edges. Now I'm going to go back and forth with my colors until I get a decent blend. Now if you're worried that your markers are going to dry out for this, you can always use some distress inks or oxides. That is definitely an option, and I did think about doing that, but I wanted to try something with the markers specifically. Now, once I have my background roughly done, I am going to work on some water, and this came from the Bayou backdrop from Fawn. Now, I always feel like I struggle with water. I do try to keep the darker colors to the very outer edges and lighter in the center, like a light is sort of shining at the very center of the water. Now that I've about got my water colored, I am going to test real quick, make sure everything looks good together, and then I am taking the rest of the Bayou backdrop and I'm going to color it in with my same green that I used for the grass. At first I thought I was just going to color a little bit of the leaves, and then I decided I was going to color it all in green. I'm going to go back over just the very edges here and there with some black to really make it look like it's nighttime and there is very dark shadows cast on things. Basically, my whole card here was just an experiment. I really wanted to see if I could do a dark nighttime scene with some glowing elements. Now that all the green is done, I'm just going to color in the border bit with solid black. I'm not doing any green here. And then I'm going to go in and color little bits of the leaves here and there, just to darken them up a bit, and then I'm going to blend it back out with my green marker. Now I'm just going to put everything together, see how it looks. I think it's coming along okay. I do want to darken up the edges of my water a little bit, so I'm going in with straight black, and I'm going to blend it back out with some of my darker blues. Now that I have the main part of my background done, I'm going to start working on my stamped images. I have stamped things from Berry Rainy Day, Unicorn Picnic, I've got Oh Gnome, Fairy Friends, Totally Awesome, and the newest stamp set that is actually not mine, but my son's, that porcupine one. I don't remember the name. I showed it on screen though. So for my mushrooms and pretty much everything, I'm just going to stick to coloring the very outer edges and leaving the inside white. This feels really strange, but I was trying to go for a glow effect. And yes, it was about this point that I really questioned myself on this one. I was like, is this going to work? Is this going to look ridiculous? The only way I was going to know is just to push forward with my idea and see if it worked. I don't know that markers are necessarily the best thing to achieve a glow effect. I feel like watercolors would be really good. Of course, digital art, you know, you can pretty much do whatever with that. Yeah, I wasn't really sure about alcohol markers. And for my scene, I'm going full glow everything. Everything is going to have some sort of glow effect to it, which I say some sort of, it's all the same exact thing, just in different colors. This tiny little frog or toad, whatever you want to call it, did not come from Totally Awesome. It actually came from Very Rainy Day. And the lily pad and the little flowers came from the Totally Awesome set. And then this little snail came from the newest porcupine set from Fawn. Which name eludes me right now, as it is not my stamp set, it is actually my oldest son's. He let me borrow it for this video. Now to make everything cohesive, I'm just going to color this little fairy house with the same colors I've already used. I was strongly tempted to bust out a yellow to color in the little window, but I opted out of that because I don't have yellow anywhere else in the card. Now for my little fairies, these are from the Unicorn Picnic stamp set. I'm just going to color these the same way I did all the other ones. I'm just going to use one solid color, and that is going to be blue. Coloring them this way just made me think of a certain game fairy. Now these little lightning bugs that I just showed you, I actually modified the little fly from Totally Awesome by drawing a little half circle along the back near the wings to make it look like the body. So that's actually where those are from. In any of the images that still have some white around them where they've been cut out, I do color them in with the marker that corresponds to the background. That way it kind of disappears. Now I'm just gluing everything in place. I already had a rough idea of where I wanted everything. But before I get too far along, I am going to take my colorless blender and I'm going to kind of dot around each of my stamped images that I want to look like they're glowing, just to lighten up the background directly around them. I do this for all of them, and yes, it does take a little bit of time because you have to go over it multiple times to really push that dark ink away. But even as I was doing this, I knew I was going to have to bring in another medium, which is white colored pencil. So you'll see that in a moment, and I just go over those areas lightly with a white colored pencil. Now, if at this point you're like, man, this just looks like a mess, I agree. I was struggling really hard with it. I was like, I don't know if what I'm doing is going to be successful. Maybe it'll look okay when everything was together. So I continued to just push through. And even now, looking at it, I still don't know how I feel about it. I did decide to add some little blades of grass. I just colored them in with that same green that I used on the grass, added a little bit of white to the edges to make it stand out. That was just to fill up the scene just a bit more. Now for my colored pencil lines, they are very rough, so I did have to soften them. I did try the wet version of a colorless pencil blender, which really didn't do much of anything, and so I went to the colored pencil style colored pencil blender, and that seemed to work pretty well for that. Another thing I really wanted was little white dots here and there in the background, so I'm going to do the exact same thing I've done with the little glow around all of my images. So I'm taking my colorless blender and I am dotting certain areas repeatedly to try to push the color away to get a lighter spot. I can then go back over it with colorless, nope, not colorless pencil, white pencil, colored pencil, and then I can blend that back out with my colorless blender for the colored pencil. Whew, that was a lot. After I glue the border with the vines on there, I'm going to add the fairies on top of the vines. I didn't want them to get lost, but I did want them to be near the vines. And then I'm going to glue all the little vines down. I didn't do this to start with because I didn't want glue to get all over my panel and mess it up, and I just find it easier to do the very edges before the vines. Once that's done, I'm going to adhere all my little lightning bugs here and there. Afterwards, I'm just repeating the process with the white colored pencil and the blender. And then for one final touch of detail, I am going to take my white gel pen and I am going to create little dots all across the background just for added interest. I wanted it to look even more glowy. So now that my card is about finished, I would like you to tell me what you think of this card, because like I said, I don't really know how I feel about it. And no, it doesn't have a sentiment, but it was already pretty full, so I didn't really know where to put one. As always, thank you for watching this video, and I'll be back with another video soon. Bye!